Welcome back, everyone. It's been a bit of hiatus, but we are here to dissect episodes 6 and 7 of Iririki Island, now under the realm of Dynamic Character Productions. I am your host, Trias. I'm back with both production members and hosts of our long games, Ian Moorhead and Morgan Jackson. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, Alex. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to get back to doing what we enjoy. So good to be here.
Yeah, same. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking some Survivor, and excited to get the ball rolling as we move forward as Dynamic Character Productions.
Well, yeah, and since it's been a brief amount, or a little bit of a brief amount of time since we've had a recap or an episode, I'm going to briefly rehash everything that happened. It'll be very quick. So we had our original tribes of Woda and Dak Dak. Woda won the first immunity challenge of the season, but unfortunately, one of their own had to leave the game for personal matters, and so Dak Dak never lost a member. They continued to not lose a member for the next 4 tribals, including 2 swap rounds. So we head into the merge with 5 Woda members, all back to back, removed from the game. We have Dak Dak fully intact and only 2 Woda members left in Garret and JS. Bad position to be in if you're the 2 Woda members heading into this merge, especially when you keep hearing throughout this pre-merge of Dak Dak strong. Being an Eagles fan, I can't stand hearing the word Dak anymore. So I would love for that to end. And we might be seeing that by the end of episode 7.
Yeah, I think the recap actually leads well into episode 6, because that's like what episode 6 is. I mean, it's like, oh, we have these 7 people and they have 2. So it should be simple, right? And in Survivor, it never is simple. So
yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, that's what we sort of hear before the first immunity challenge, and hearing that they are officially merged. We hear from James and we hear from Vinny. Vinny is very much that mentality of they are all on board with Dak Dak strong. They see it as, I could shake things up, but why would I shake things up when I have 2 guaranteed vote outs that can get me to 7, and then we can figure it out from there. Even though James and Brett have their worries because they are in the minority of the Dak Dak structure post the swap. So they're trying to figure out what's in our best interest, but without rocking the boat. James, on the other hand, has to go to that next level because he was so dominant in challenges. He's worried that he would be on the bottom of Dak Dak as well. So he's like, how can I hide my strengths, but then just rely solely on the social game?
yeah, it's so funny to me. Like, there were a couple confessionals. You mentioned Vinny, but there were a couple confessionals that were like, oh, we're Dak Dak strong. We're Dak Dak strong. But all it takes is, you could have 6 of those in a row, and all it takes is one person at the end to be like, I don't want to do this. And,
Right.
Even though that would only make numbers 6-3, it only takes one person to have a decent idea to pitch to a couple other members of Dak Dak to shake the whole game up. And I think that, there's been a couple seasons of actual Survivor that have been, Pagongings and one tribe dominating the whole game. But that's why we don't see that so often. I mean, rarely do tribes come into the merge even. There's usually a decent advantage or a slight advantage on one side. So I think that we'll see here in episode 6 who starts the hounding of not Dak Dak strong, if that happens.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting situation too, because you have so many people who haven't even attended a tribal council. So you really don't know if you're in the group of 7, obviously there's the people who had swapped away from their original tribe, but at the end of the day, as a group of 7, they have never once attended tribal council. They've never had to test actual loyalties. So there's a lot of question marks that they didn't get to have answered in the pre-merge. So it can be intimidating to put yourself out there and say, you know what, I'm just going to totally stray away from what I know and vote with the minority.
Right. And so it is a question. We see it in one of the titles of the episode of like intentional pagonging versus an intentional mat singing. And we really see that here, even though it's not so much a mat sing as the mat sing comes from Denise and Malcolm, and they were actually in line lockstep with each other. JS and Garret understand their positioning of they're more in the mindset of, okay, we are the last two, we won't vote for each other, or we'll try not to vote for each other, but really, I'm not going to stick my neck out for you. Whereas it seemed like, so it's not really a true mat sing, but it's sort of interesting to see where the power dynamic is and how you react to it, whether you're on the bottom or on the top. And we do see, you really could do case studies on these shows to really see how people react when they're the one in the driver's seat versus they're in power but not the one controlling the game. Because we really see that this is like Brett's coming out party for the season as well, because it's him realizing I'm not at the top, so let me shake it up by the end of episode 7. So it's just very interesting. But we go into the merge. We're now the Alon tribe, and our first challenge is bottles out. And it's you're holding a 2-liter bottle that's filled all the way, arms fully extended out, straight arms the entire time, and you have to maintain your arm positioning. For last one remaining wins immunity. And we do ultimately see the oldest person on the cast, Bill, win his first individual immunity. You two have a more of a personal relationship with Bill. He was on your long season of Exile Island. So give me some of your like initial reactions when you saw Bill take this one home.
Yeah, I mean, it felt great because Bill got very unlucky in our game. Kind of went home because other people wanted to, do stupid stuff. So it's nice to see Bill come out on top here. And to be honest, shocked to see Bill come out on top here because there's some fit people in this cast, and Bill being 60 years old, just dominates. And, and that first individual immunity is huge no matter what side of the numbers you're on. So.
Yeah, I was super happy for Bill. He's an awesome guy. We loved having him on our season. And like Ian said, he was gone way too soon from our season. So it's been awesome to see him be successful and have fun playing the game. And I mean, everybody knows that winning individual immunity is such a fun experience. No matter when in the game you win it, whatever challenge it is, it feels great. Especially at a merge vote when really anything can happen. None of the dynamics are set in stone. It's great to have that protection.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see Bill ultimately win it. We do see some people that I suspected through the challenge at one point or another. Like I think James definitely threw. He doesn't seem like someone who would go out so early in any comp really. As well as Brett, and Brett at least openly admits it in confessional after. He's like, I feel like I wouldn't win, but I could have gone a lot farther, but I don't know. I see how people are reacting about James. I don't want to be in that same target level, so let someone else win it. Let me go out in the middle, so it's not really something to be suspicious about. But really now we're just going straight like into, is it going to be JS? Is it going to be Garret? And we see a lot of people struggling because these are the rounds I know you, Ian, and Morgan would definitely hate of. You're trying to get a name. You're trying to get some sort of plan in action, but it's a lot of people not talking, being very wishy-washy, never giving out a name, even when they're the ones in the power seat. So really, it shouldn't matter to them what name they say, but they're not giving Garret or JS anything, no matter how much they're trying to be pitch and be like, I can be a number. I can be something. Someone was at the bottom. Someone was going home that first vote if Connor didn't leave. Like, what's going on? And it seems like for the most part, all of them are just like, no, nothing happened.
Yeah, and I think everyone is well aware who would have went home. It's mentioned a couple times, at least in episode 7, possibly in episode 6 as well, of who would have went home at that first tribal, and their name is never brought up. JM, their name is never brought up in this conversation. It's just, I agree, and it is annoying from a former player and as a production member to not hear names, especially when like they're even in confessionals and still not giving names. Like, give me something. Like, even if you don't know who's going home, tell me who you want to go home. Just give me something, because it's hard for production, and even as a player, like why not? Like, what is hurting you telling anybody at this point, especially if you're one of those 7 people. Like, why not just say Garret or JS's name? Who's that going to hurt? It's just, it's interesting. And I do want to go back to, I want to ask the both of you a question about the challenges. Do you feel that at this stage in the game, first individual challenge, it's too early to be throwing immunity challenges?
It really depends, I think. It really depends on what the perception people have of you going once you get into that individual phase, because obviously you can show little bits and pieces of yourself through the team challenges. And I feel it's almost a detriment if people think you're a immunity threat. It almost works against you to throw, because then it becomes more aware that you're throwing it. Like for Brett, I don't think it's that big of a deal because no one was like outwardly saying, oh, Brett's this big competition beast. James, I can get away with it because it wasn't so much the physical aspect that was his prowess. It was everyone realizing, oh, he's good at puzzles. He's good at the mental side of the games. So it really depends on what it is and who it is that's doing it. So it's not really an answer. I know I'm sort of like towing the line, but that's sort of my perspective on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I agree though. You can't, nothing in Survivor is ever black and white, and it's different based on who you are and who you're playing with and what things have happened at that point in the game. Like it could be a bad move for one person and a good move for somebody else. So again, not answering your question, but I feel like.
And that's the answer I expect from both of you. I think I agree with Alex though. I think someone that is, you have to assess if you're already a challenge threat. If you're already considered a challenge threat, throwing challenges is stupid.
Right.
Because you're gonna get booted eventually for winning or for being considered a challenge threat. So throwing them it's probably gonna be obvious enough to where it's not gonna change the rest of the cast's mind to where, oh, you're suddenly not a challenge threat. We were wrong about you in the first 4 rounds of the game. So
right. Like I was just watching another org, and it was like an all-star style season. They had people come back, and there was this one person who was playing who his previous season, he was a big competition beast. Like at the time had the record for that org for most competition wins. Comes to this game, constantly is throwing everything, did not win a single challenge, but eventually does go out because people still had that fear of, well, they could just turn it on at any moment. But so it didn't matter that he was throwing all the time. They were still like, but it's this person. He wins stuff. We have to get rid of him. So so I think overall we're in the same consensus here. But getting back into here, and luckily enough, even though we have an odd number of people in this merge, no hourglasses. Everything is actually a vote. People who are safe are safe. And but we do see some different perspectives. Like we obviously Tom and Bill are lockstep with each other. They're like, yeah, let's just get Garret out. Let's get the bigger name out. JS is someone that we can maybe even use next round or 2 rounds if for whatever reason JS wins an immunity. But Garret seems to be the one that everyone's targeting on. But we do see someone like Celestina who admits that she doesn't like this part of the game. Like she's here for entertainment. She wants to have the stuff that makes good TV, but she also understands positioning and doesn't think she has the sway to keep either Garret or JS. So it's very interesting going into this round. You see the frustration from JS and from Garret more visibly, and him questioning, do I play the idol or not at this point? Like it sort of seems like a sale safe. But then you have all these people who are like, I want to make a move against my own, but is it time? Is it time? And that's the saying for me that eats at me every single time I hear or watch a game or play a game is, oh, it's not time yet. Because the question is, if you keep holding off saying it's not time, soon it's going to be time, but it's not going to be for you to make a move. It's someone to make a move against you.
Yeah, I think episode 6 is Garrett's episode. I mean, he is just the way he navigates, like sort of calling everyone out, but then like also like Celestina, who you said earlier, like some of these people have never been to a tribal, and like it's clear on Celestina's face that she's never been to one because she struggles with voting people out that she, I don't know, likes, or just like at this point in the game, she's realizing that she's crushing someone's dream of winning the game. So voting them out is hard for her. But yeah, Garret he calls everyone, I feel like, on DAC out at one point or another, and still like I mean, in the end, he sticks to his word, like he says several times. But it works out for him. I don't know. It was a wild journey, this merge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point about the Garret side of things. Like Garret is actively calling people out to their face, but also saying like, hey, I understand the logic of these games. Like, even if I miss, I'm still open to working with you. And if you miss on me, I'm still open to working with you. Like, we can figure something out the next round, but this round at this point, this is what I need to do. So he's just trying to cling to a name. Celestina and James end up biting, and they tell Garret, it looks like it's going to be you tonight, not knowing that he has an idol, not knowing he can protect himself, but they're just like, we're trying to be your friend here. This is what's going to happen. And Celestina does say, well, Vinny had this thing that he may or may not have to do at 9 o'clock. So we don't know what his his or their commitment can be. And that's where Garret like just clings onto that. Okay, I will vote Vinny. I hope other people vote with me. And that's what we last see as we head into tribal. We see that, and James just going, maybe I have to throw my vote that way as well. Because if he doesn't have an idol, Garret needs Jesus. Wow, I'm surprised that wasn't the title of the episode, because that was just a great line from James, one of his best on the season.
Yeah, I do also. I mean, I gave credit to Garret there, but I also want to give some credit to JS, who I also felt played this round in the minority very well. There's very few ways you can swindle your way out or look good in a 7-2 minority, and I felt like they both did. I mean, Garret gets votes obviously, but like I felt like they both did admirably. They were working together, but like again, like you said, Alex, like not working together.
Right.
Like, you know, if you go home and I don't, like, so be it, but I don't want you to go home either, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think JS and Garret both deserve adequate praise for their.
It would have been interesting to see how Garret played this round without having an idol, because obviously him knowing that he had an idol and knowing that nobody else knew that he had an idol gave him the freedom to just throw things out, blow everybody up, call out people. And you can play with that boldness when you know at the end of the day you're going to be able to play that idol and you're going to be safe no matter what blows back at you. But I think it was interesting to, like Ian said, to see both sides of the coin, right? Jay had to kind of play a little more subtly, whereas Garret could play big and try to shake things up on the majority side.
Right. It's definitely interesting. I think ultimately without the idol, I think both still play a similar way in this round. And Garret goes with 6 votes in this case, because Garrett's going to be more someone who's going to be willing to fight and be out in front, whereas JS, as we have seen throughout this season, is able to more so be subtle, be more like try to be the wallflower, just be like, hey, you don't need to focus on me. I'm here. I can I can helpful, like be a friendly face for you. I can do what you need to do. And people are going to react to that more than someone who's very out and boisterous like Garret is, because we see how he acts in episode 7 without an idol. He just pretends he has one. But we get into tribal. We hear the frustrations. It's time for the vote. And what I forgot to mention was the previous round, Tom got a clue that could get him an extra vote. In order to get the extra vote, he needed to abstain from voting in the next round. So he decides to abstain from voting. He doesn't think it's going to be him. So does his vote ultimately matter? No, because we know it was probably going towards Garret anyway. But what we see that's very curious, obviously we see Garret vote Vinny. James makes the very interesting choice of putting JS down and saying, hey, I just need to make sure if he plays an idol, a name's out there. I know he's probably voting Vinny, but, and he like shoulder shrugs it. And in my head, I watched this live and I just couldn't believe it, because I'm like, James is a good player, and just see him make this mental error. I know he was tired and everything, but making that mental error was ultimately his downfall, because we see the idol played, we see Tom's idol played. Tom's is a unsuccessful play because no one voted for him. Garrett's is a very successful play because all the votes are on him except for his vote and James's vote. So we see Vinny with a vote and JS with a vote. So now Garrett's safe, Bill's safe, Vinny's safe, JS is safe. A Dak person's finally going home on a wheel. Bill's screaming in excitement because he knows his name's finally not on a wheel. And we see James ultimately go. Mayor Ponderosa, 6th person voted out, first member of the jury. Final thoughts on James. And I know, Ian, you have some thoughts on that move.
Yeah, it's insane to me. Like, I know that you want to protect, a member of your alliance, like James and Vinny are working together. That's why he makes the move. But you just put yourself in, like, if Vinny goes home, it sucks. But, so be it. It's not you. And then James, I know it's a 1 in 4 chance, and he probably thought it was going to be a bigger chance than 1 in 4 if that was the case. But man, it's just wild to me that people will, I don't know, actively desire to go to Rocks. It's just.
See, I think the bigger error is that the 7 Dak didn't say, let's split the votes. They clearly could have safely split the votes and had absolutely no issue. If you have a majority of 7-2, I mean, I don't understand why that couldn't have been a discussion, which we didn't see at all.
Right.
That was no conversation.
That could have blown up Tom's move. One, Tom using his extra vote, or going for the extra vote and abstaining, and then using his idol is a little confusing. Like, if he thought he was safe enough to use the extra vote, like, why play the idol? Like, I get it, you just want to be safe, but again, it's just, I have a hard time seeing how those two moves coincide with each other. But if they're trying to split the vote and Tom knows that he's not going to vote, then he's going to have to tell Bill or his number 1 or figure out a way to split the vote still.
I mean, at the very least, James could have gone to Vinny and said, hey, I know that Garrett's voting for you. Let's you and me vote for JS. That way, if Garret plays his idol, we still have 2 votes on Jay, and we don't have to worry about where Garrett's voting.
But ultimately, it was a mistake of Tom's, because, like, you heard people in this episode saying, Tom sort of reminded me of Boston Rob. He wants everyone to stay in the room, in only one room. He doesn't want the conversation to spread. He wants it to be very succinct, straightforward. And because of that, no one was able to talk and, like, create the plan in motion because everyone was just sticking in a room. Everyone's not talking. You can't strategize and create these contingency plans if people aren't moving around. And ultimately, we see that in both these episodes, is people not able to come together and understand the assignment. And instead, they just decide to not turn one in. And because of that, James goes. But that creates some chaos heading into the next episode. It's got to be a pagonging, not a Matt singing. And yeah, we see a lot of the Dak people just, like, in different levels of emotion. JM is one of the few times, JM, I love them. They are very talkative. They will talk your ear off. Shocked. One of the few moments where he doesn't really, where they don't have, like, words to really describe what just happened. And then on the other side of it, you see Bill just like, ooh, someone just woke me up. We're playing now. Like, this is fun. So I just love the different perspectives of just seeing one of their own leave and how that impacts how they move forward.
Yeah, it was funny to me transitioning quickly from episode 6 to 7, because, like we said, just 10 minutes ago, like, no one's saying a name, and then all of a sudden one of them goes, and it's like, oh, I have to, like, I'll do anything now. I don't care, as long as it's not me. So
yeah, I almost feel like unless you were really closely aligned with James, like, it's kind of an ideal scenario if you're on Dak, because it has, in essence, shaken things up a little bit. Somebody from your original group has gone home, and there might be actually more wiggle room, realizing that, okay, it really could be anybody going home. there's no sense in the 6 of us trying to stick together.
Right. And that it ultimately leads us into the challenge after we hear Tom make the initial statement of we need to maintain this pagonging. We can't let the Matsing take over and become an intentional Matsing. We need to do something about it. We are now in flipping out, which is a 3-stage challenge. First stage, you have 2 cups mouth to mouth, flip them into each other. First 5 go on to stage 2. Stage 2 is you hold the cups on the bottom. You do the same thing. You try to get them on top of each other. Top 3 move on. Then stage 3 from Exile Island, extreme flip cup. First one to complete that by putting 2 cups on top of an already flipped cup wins individual immunity. I love this challenge. I love tiered challenges. I like seeing people fight and see who really wants it, because these aren't it could be a very easy challenge or it can be extremely difficult for people.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorites. I love extreme flip cup specifically. But I think, it's simple and it's quick. And I think no matter win or lose, you're having fun doing this challenge. So it was nice to see, even loser, the people who are losing in the earlier rounds, still go out with a smile on their face. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do see for stage 1 was actually the fastest round. We see Brett, Jay, both Jays, Bill and Garret move on. So Vinny, Tom, and Celestina are eliminated. Stage 2 was more difficult. And I was watching it back actually this morning. And I was just looking at how Garret was doing it. And there was never going to be an opportunity where Garret got it. Because all these flips, the point of flipping is to make it quick. You don't want to throw it high, because now you're letting gravity and air and anything else dictate how that cup moves, and also the force of which you throw it up. You want little quick jerks to try to just do it quick. And that's why Brett ultimately wins this whole thing, is because Brett was very intentional with his movements and trying to be very quick about it. But we also saw JS trying to throw the second stage until he realized no one else was going to get it, which was just fantastic watching.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. His confessional of being yeah, I was trying to throw the challenge. Everyone was just so bad at it that I needed it to end.
And I love people that are like that, because I understand what I'm doing is right. But I don't want to be sitting here for 20 minutes. So you just do it anyway and then hope that someone wins in the third stage, which was both Jays and Brett. Brett wins it. And we said episode 6 was Garret. Episode 7 is Garret and Brett, I feel, because Brett, we keep seeing he has his eye on Tom. He understands that Tom is in his way in this game. And he knows that Tom's in the way of a lot of other people in this game, but they're so tentative to give out information in these rounds because they're in fear of people spreading their information. But now with some comfort and immunity, knowing that no matter what he does, he can't go home this round. It seems like Brett finally opens up and he's like, okay, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to take my shot. But you know what? Garrett's Garret. Garret can say whatever he wants. He says he has now. Who cares if he even has one? We have an assignment now. Let's get our marching orders in place and start going at it. So I want to know your opinions on, was this the right time for Brett? And was it maybe the immunity that helped gain him the courage to move forward, or was it just the wine?
Probably a combination of both.
Yeah, I would say if something's happening for Brett, wine's got to be involved. So does go hand in hand. It's just, again, I'll bring up what I said earlier. I think it's interesting that Brett was the one who said, I'm going to throw the challenge in the last episode because I don't want to be seen as a challenge threat, and then comes out and wins this one. It's just, I don't know. It's just so, and maybe that's the wine, who knows? But yeah, I thought this episode was great for Brett, and Garret. This episode is just absolutely baffling. His maneuvering through the scramble round is one to be seen for sure. Yeah. So let's dissect, because there's 2 parts to Garrett's fame, which overall takes over this post immunity pre-tribal round. One, we'll start off with the target. He decides to just make it actively known
that, hey, maybe I'm pretty sure I won't be going home this round. So start putting in the seeds of maybe he has another advantage or an idol, and then goes, I'm voting out Tom. And in multiple occasions, he's saying that as Tom enters the room and just keeps saying in front of Tom, yes, I'm going for Tom. And I love the comedy of him keep saying that. And Tom keeps going, yeah, but give me a name. Like, give me something I can work with. And he just keeps looking back at him like, why would I say that? I'm voting you. I'm voting you. And I just love the comedy between these two people. Like, Tom goes this episode, but I loved Tom in this season. I thought he was very funny. Did he make mistakes? Yes. But that was part of the humor of it all. And I don't know. It was just a very interesting dynamic between these two.
But yeah, we didn't see Tom really try to make anything different happen. And that seemed, I mean, Garret said that was his goal, right? With having Tom know that Garrett's putting his name out there, he was hoping that Tom's going to try to put the vote on somebody else and not Garret.
Right. Which then leads to part 2. He decides he's going to make up an idol. And when I pulled him in confessional, I didn't realize he was in the middle of already telling this story. So I thought I pulled him for confessional and he made up that story on the spot to me when I asked him what he was planning to do. And honestly, when I hear it, it's just like, it's such like mad scientist like archetype for him now, because he's just like, I'm playing with house money, so I'm just gonna throw a bunch of crap at the wall and see what sticks. And so he's like, well, the round before merge, we had the Blues Clues, like, or the challenge where we had our eyes closed, or reading the Blues Clues. And I noticed at the merge that one of the production members had blue. So I reached out to him and said, like, do you have a clue? And then he gives this riddle that he found online, which ultimately leads to, forward I'm heavy, backwards I'm not. What am I? So it's a ton. So he won the merge idol. A lot of people are skeptical. A lot of people don't believe, but it's the threat of it, like, is it possible? And that also really stirs things up where now Tom and Bill and Brett and Vinny, all of them now are scrambling to figure out, well, what do we do? Like, if he does have one, but he says he's voting Tom, maybe now we can actually get our plan together. Like, maybe we can actually shake things up so that we can ensure it's not us. Like, it's that move to me was just like, it was chef's kiss, you know. It was just amazing to watch in person.
It's still baffling to me how that plan works. I think having hosted like a long game and never playing in a mini, I think this is like a pure speed of the game type of move. And like, if you're playing in a long game in this scenario and you have more than 20 minutes or a half hour to think through it, you're like, why the hell would they put the merge idol in before the merge? It makes no sense. Tom and I think Bill along with them are the only people to like sniff it out and be like, this makes no sense, guys. Come on, let's stick with the plan. And no one sticks with the plan. And I think as well, I said Tom and Bill, those are org vets. And I think just off the top of my head, I know at this point that JM and Celestina are org rookies. There definitely could be more in the group, but yeah, I think it's a combo of experience and just pace of the game catching up to people. And Garret, hats off to him for the Blues Clues idol, which we'll see if it stops in episode 7. We'll see if the charade doesn't continue.
The people, the people who are good liars can play really well in a mini, because there literally is no time to go fact check. If somebody says, oh, so-and-so told me this, right? You are forced to either believe them or not believe them, because you might not get the chance to go to that other person and say, is this true? And Garrett's able to capitalize on the chaos of what a mini is. And he does it really beautifully, honestly.
Right. Like, and that brings up a good point of like being really good liars for a mini at least. I feel you can only go one of two I shouldn't say only, but the best strategy you can do is either be an amazing liar and just hope you never get caught, or just be willing to be honest, like brutally honest the entire game, so that people always know where you stand. Because it's always, you either go, people don't want to take you out because they know that you're a man or a woman of your word, or they're in so much fear of what is true and what is not true if you're the liar, that they don't want to risk being got because they try to vote for you. So it's that balance. And we see, honestly, like a Garret and JS are that good dichotomy here. JS, I feel, is very honest, like very, like, he still withholds things and he tries to be more laid back and more of a wallflower, but he's more honest to the point. Whereas Garret is honest, but he has so many other things out there that you never truly know where he's going. But it brings up to Brett, where Brett's like, is it true or is it not? It doesn't really matter to me if it's true. It's the excuse that I need now to make that point. And I think that's why I'm very high on Brett on this episode. It's not that he gets got by the lie, but it's that, hey, let the lie work for me. And if it's true, then it's true, but I'm going to work as if it's a lie.
Yeah, I think Brett's thinking is spot on here, because if it's a lie, he's not going to play anything. So he's probably thinking, or at least if I'm Brett, I'm thinking if he's lying, nothing gets played this round, and then we just get him next round. But this round gives me a chance to get out someone who I want to get out now. And like you said earlier, if it's the time, it's the time. You gotta pick your spots in these games, especially when every round is 1 hour long. So
yeah, absolutely. And then there's like one other little funny thing here that I wanted to talk on before we reach tribal. So we have Tom and Bill talking, and while they're talking, trying to figure, they're like, okay, yeah, that's totally a lie. That's not a real idol. We then get Tom going, how did JM make it this far? Like, what? They were supposed to be out first. What happened? Cue to JM immediately going into confessional going, so I think me and Tom are running the game. We're definitely in control. We may not be lockstep with each other, but we're definitely in control of this game together. And every single time I watch that, it's just, I can't stop but laugh, because it's just so funny how McKenna plays those two together in that sequence, because I do believe JM feels, because they've been on Tom's tribe this entire time, they haven't gone home. They've been voting in sync with Tom in the, I guess, one votes that they've done. So, and they never voted for real in the first vote, or in the first tribal. So JM can only make assumptions on who was going to go home. And I think in their mind, they may think Bill would have gone at that point instead of them. So it's just funny seeing perspectives and how people see each other, because Tom doesn't see JM as a number one, but at the point in the game, JM sees Tom as theirs. So it's interesting how to play with that.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting part is what you said, like, they haven't voted. Like, they voted one time and they happened to vote together, but how are you, the hubris at which they use to say that they are running the game, is the two of them are running the game, is interesting.
Definitely is. And we'll have to see how JM bounces back, because we saw their face at the end of tribal. Pure shock and despair on their face seeing that vote.
Now they're only running the game, just them.
Just them. But yeah, so we get to tribal. There's more talk about Garret's idol. He re-explains it. There's a lot of people trying to like poke holes in the theory, and Garret just is very able to like keep moving forward. He has his line. He's going to stick to it. It's like, no, I never said it was during when all our eyes were closed. I said, you have to always pay attention to what they're saying. And then I heard them talk about Blue's Clues. And then at the merge, I saw the blue box. So now I knew that's different. Let me see what happens if I type in clue to them. And so I think Garret did a good job on his part to just keep in the lie, keep in the story. There's never a moment where he really gaffes and like says something that contradicts what he's been saying. He just is insistent, keeps rehashing. And now people are a little bit terrified of what actually is going to happen in this vote. And
I think
oh, go ahead.
I think it's helpful too that he has been really honest with a lot of other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very honest that I'm going to vote for Vinny. He was very honest that I'm going to vote for Tom, right? So it's not like he lied to everybody in the previous round, right? He told the truth in the previous round. And what's it to say that he's not telling the truth again, right? I think that supports his case.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions asked, especially by Tom, because Tom is well aware that Garret is lying. That, try and get him to slip up, try and get him to just like take it a little too far. And Garret just, like you said, continues to rehash his points. And he says it with like a kind of attitude to where you're like a little bit threatened by him, because he keeps saying it over and over again and like keeps saying it in the same tone of voice. So you're like, everyone but Tom and Bill are like, okay, we believe you now. Or at least like we're gonna say we do to vote out someone else.
Yeah. And it just makes this vote also very interesting, because we see people sort of try to do what James did. And so we see Tom vote for Bill. And I know Tom voted for Bill thinking, oh, well, if Garret votes for me and maybe there's an aisle, maybe there's not, we can at least cancel each other out, and then there's mayhem. We will both be safe, me and Bill. Bill votes for Tom this round. So that part confused me, but we hear him say, hey, we need mayhem in this game. So I think Bill decided, even though he wanted to work with Tom, he ultimately made the decision, me being linked to Tom won't help me, but having Garret out in front the way that he is can hide me, whereas Tom may not be able to.
Bill is a gamer. Bill wants to play. So getting Bill, this episode too, like when I got Bill's application, or when we got Bill's application for the long game, that's what he said. He said, I want to play. That was like in big, bold, uppercase word and letters that he said that. And, getting rocked out early didn't help. And now here, this is where like I saw that side of Bill, that he wants to play. He doesn't care. I mean, Tom just said in the episode before that, or maybe in this episode, we're number ones. Like it's you and I going to final two, and Bill writes his name down.
Yeah. Because like Bill can't use the excuse of, oh, but I was just also placing a vote on you to make sure we're 1-1, because we knew where Garret was voting. But we also see Celestina vote for Garret, only one to stick to what the plan was supposed to be originally for everyone on the DAC side. And she also feels a little burned by Garret, because Garrett's throwing out the whole who told him about Vinny. And so she just votes for him. JM votes for JS, because there can only be one J. They didn't say that, but I just think in my head, whenever there's people with the same name, you want to be the last one remaining.
That's definitely what that's coming from. Yeah, they definitely want to be the last J remaining. Doesn't matter if they're the last Castaway, just the last J.
Well, I think in JM's mind, they also want to be at the end. But ultimately, we see the votes come out. It ends up being Tom. Tom's a very good sport throughout this episode, and especially at the end. He's a gamer. He understands sometimes you get got. He got here. Leads with his extra vote, even though really his extra vote would have been of no help this round, because Brett and Vinny and Bill decide to jump on board to vote out Tom. So Tom's now the seventh boot, second member of the jury. Any final thoughts on Tom and his game?
Tom was a lot of fun, and I think hearing his final words, like we said earlier, we've been gone for a while, but hearing Tom's final words like brought back like what made Tom so fun, was that like he was there to play. He didn't care at any time, if he went. He was playing to win the game, and Tom's an interesting one, because I think there's not a lot of people like Tom in the org community. I mean, someone that can like really play and like not give a damn about, his placement. He just wants to win. So.
Yeah, I mean, he found an idol. He had an extra vote. I think he was well liked by a lot of people, which ultimately is why he was a threat and people wanted to get him out. Because I think if he had made it to the end, he would have been able to make a strong case. He's good at talking to people, and it's not like he hadn't done anything in the game. So I think the other players were on the right track to get him out when they did.
Yeah, it's very funny because I agree with you. He's very in front, like straight out in front. He kept texting the whole group the idol clues. I will say in the first round when he first did that, when I pulled him into confessional, I like made a remark while I was giving him questions like, "Oh, so you accidentally showed your clue or your guess to the entire round or to everyone? Like, did you mean to do that? Were you going to try to do the backtrack?" He's like, "I'm not going to backtrack. I can only move forward." So then he does it again. And I was like, okay, this is the character that we have this season. And to have like the Stones this past round with JS in the room saying we have to avoid a Matt singing and keep going with the pagonging. And you just have JS standing there smiling, just like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Was just great TV. I loved it. I want people to also remember placement doesn't always mean how good or bad you are in this game. Sometimes getting out at this stage, it happens, but it doesn't mean you're a bad player. I think Tom's a very good player, but just he was too out in front. And when you're out in front, someone wants to take the head, and Brett and Garret wanted to take the head clean off, and they did expertly, which leads us now to the episode 6 and episode 7 combined MVPs. We each get one because I am involved this season, but I'm going to start with Ian. Who was your MVP for these 2 episodes?
This is funny because I had like a few options in case I didn't want to double up. So I had a few options in case either of you picked my first, but after sitting here for a little longer, I'm going with JS. Not only did he and his lone ally from WOTA survive survive both votes. Sorry, he is not the figurehead of the WOTA 2. It's Garret well out in front. Him and Garret have sort of flipped the original Dak on each other. So I'm going with JS.
Oh, that's a very good pick. I was actually a little bit shocked because we've been hyping up these 2 people all the time, but I did see throughout the episode you were giving JS his dues, and I agree. Like, there's cases you can make for a lot of these players for being MVPs for this round. But Morgan, who is your MVP?
I think it has to be Garret. I mean, I just don't think that if Garret hadn't played the way that he did, it could have very easily been Garret then Jay going out back to back. The fact that Garret did have his idol and was able to shake things up enough, I think is a big part of the reason why both he and JS are still in the game. He was fun to watch play. He threw a lot of truths out there, and he also threw a lot of lies out there, and honestly, everything worked for him. I mean, obviously, like Ian said, there's a lot of eyes on him at this point, and there aren't any on Jay. So who knows where the road will take Garret, but I think in the last 2 episodes, he by far stands out as a top-notch player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's like, totally agree with you. Garret was a outstanding person this episode, has definitely been growing as the episodes have gone on, and you're really seeing like without saying, like, you're seeing a main character come out of this. Like, you really don't see a ton of main characters.
Or a dynamic character.
Yeah, a dynamic character.
We are seeing a dynamic character as he keeps growing and forming into his own self in this org specifically. But for my MVP, I'm also gonna not double up, and I'm gonna go with Brett. While episode 6 may have not been his best point, we were seeing the rumblings of what he wants to do. And he did call his shot. He won an immunity, got confident, made the move. Now Tom's out of the game. And guess what? The eyes aren't going to be on Brett. They're going to be on Garret. So he made the move and then can immediately shift right back into the foreground and let Garret be this amazingly huge shield for him. Am I a big fan of meat shield strategy? No. But when you have someone as big and volatile as Garret, you know what? Make the move and you have that perfect smoke screen. So with that, I'm very interested to see how Brett continues to do going forward. I'm very interested to see how much more wine he drinks throughout this season. But yeah, so that brings us to our totals. So at the end of episode 7, Garret takes the lead with 3 MVPs, followed by James, Brett, and JS with 2 MVPs each. And then we have 1 MVP for Tom, Steven, and Vinny. So we're now at a point where we're at an unknown. We don't truly know what's going to happen here. We lost some big players this round. So at this point, heading into this next couple episodes, who do you guys feel is in the best placement? The most secure spot in the game? Not the winning game, but like most secure.
Oh, I if we're going most secure, I would say Celestina at this point. I just, if I was making a power rankings shout out specialist, Celestina would be my number 1 right now.
Yeah, I think Celestina is the only person that didn't have their name out in some capacity in these last 2 episodes. Nobody's really looking at her, at least at this point in the game. So I would agree.
Yeah, like now that I think about it, I have to agree with both of you, because there was only one moment in these 2 episodes where we hear Celestina's name brought up, and that's Brett saying like, oh, I want to take out maybe Celestina or Tom. But then I talked to Celestina and she was so nice. So now I don't want to take her out. And that's just like Celestina being herself. It's not even her like playing the game. It's just like her positive like energy just makes it, why throw her away? Why send her home? So I agree. But you know what? It's great to be back. It was great having both of you two here. But before we close out, I know that you two have some news that you want to share with Dynamic Character Production audience. So take it away.
Yes, Ian and I are very excited to announce that we will be hosting our second long game together. It will be Survivor Monte Carlo. And applications will be coming out very soon. So if you are interested in playing, or you think somebody would be interested in playing, take a look at the application, fill it out, and we'd love to have you join us as one of the new players for Dynamic Character Productions. We are looking to play the game through January into February. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We're very excited.
Yeah, the that void this year, that's going to be that extra month without real Survivor because of the Olympics, can be filled with Dynamic Character Productions Survivor Monte Carlo. I cannot wait to meet 18 new faces and also hand out the biggest cash prize in team history. So cannot wait.
Wow. So everyone, please, if you know anyone or if you yourself want to be involved in the game, definitely look at the application. We will be posting it out on our social media and on our Facebook page, which you should all join. So it's our name, Dynamic Character Productions. Go follow us. We'll accept you. And that's where you can put questions in for exit interviews. You'll be up to date when new episodes drop, as well as if you like what you're doing here and you made it to this YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Press that bell for all notifications and press the like button so that we know that you enjoyed the content that we are providing, because we are meant to be entertainment for you. And with that, I am Alex Trias. That's Ian Moorhead. That's Morgan Jackson. We're signing off. We'll see you next time.